the supplemental budget hearing to order. If you could please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there anyone here this evening to make any public comment regarding the supplemental budget hearing for the 2022-23 budget? If you are, please come forward. Not seeing anyone. All right, if there is no one, this is for the supplemental, not the bond. All right, if there are no public comments, then I will adjourn the supplemental budget hearing. So now I will call the budget hearing for the fiscal year 2023-2024 to order. Is there anyone here to make comment on the budget hearing for the 2023-2024 budget? Don't all rush at once. All right. Seeing none, I will officially adjourn the budget hearing for the fiscal year 2023-2024. With that, I will now call the regular meeting to order. So this is the North Wasco County School District regular school board meeting, Thursday, June 15, 2023. The first item for tonight is revision of the agenda. And directors, I do have one revision for tonight. So under the superintendent's report, the bond measure presentation, following that presentation, we will have comments available for public that are wishing to share their thoughts on the bond information that we receive. So it'll be following the presentation. We will have comments from the public regarding the bond measure information. Any questions regarding that? Okay. All right, with that, we will move to the reading of the district mission, vision, and values, which I'll do tonight. Our mission statement is educating each student to the highest standards while motivating them to reach their fullest potential and graduating them to be college, career, and life ready. Our vision statement reads, our schools are a place where children belong. Each student is known by name, strength, and need, and provided the education and opportunities to achieve success. Our values, striving for equity, inclusion, and belonging, celebrating diversity, engaging the community, supporting the whole child, and promoting and achieving academic excellence. All right, with that, it brings us to our student and staff recognition, which tonight we have a very special guest, the Dallas High School girls softball team in attendance tonight. So I'll have Dr. Bernal and Stephanie Bowen present that.
These are really weird mics to just like hold in your hand, but all right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies. It's my pleasure to have you all here tonight. We are super excited and super proud of what you've been able to achieve and accomplish this year. I'll share a little bit of one quick story. I played fast pitch softball as a girl until I was 15. I was the pitcher. I did not pitch nor throw as fast as you all do, which is crazy to me. But I was at the game. I was there. I was in the stands with my 81-year-old mom and my sister. And all of them commented during the game about how they could tell the relationships you all had with each other, the sisterhood that you've built under the leadership of your coaches, and that you all have something really special. And I would 100% agree. To your coaches, thank you so much for your leadership this year and for building just a great group of girls. We really appreciate you. And then I was going to invite Mr. Brost up because he had a few words to share about you all.
Good evening, ladies. 2023 Dallas High Riverhawks finished with a 26-3 overall record, including a perfect 15-0 mark in Tri-Valley Conference play. These girls broke the OSAA single-season softball home run record previously of 56 by bashing 70 home runs this season. That was good for fourth on the National Federation of High School National Record Board. 10 of our girls were selected for the Tri-Valley Conference All-Conference team, including pitcher Kennedy Abbas, who was also named Tri-Valley Conference Pitcher of the Year, Zoe LeBreton as a first-team infielder, and she was also named Tri-Valley Conference Player of the Year. Other players receiving all-league honors include Kayleani Crichton-Tuanai, first-team infielder, Maddie Brock, second-team infield, Sydney Newby, honorable mention first base, Madeline Sagapulatelli, first-team outfield, Kalia Crichton-Tuanai, first-team outfield, Ella Smith, honorable mention outfield, Despina Seafalamua, first-team utility, and Jaylani Stewart, first-team catcher. The team received OSAA Academic All-State honors, ranking number 3 in 4A softball with a team GPA of 3.72. They brought home the 4A state championship in softball, the school's first in 29 years, but with the largest margin of victory in OSAA championship game history. These girls will carry a 22 consecutive game winning streak into the 2024 season as defending state champions. The girls will be honored at the City Council meeting by Mayor Rich Mays on June 26th, along with being honored with our other state qualifying teams at the City of the Dalles 4th of July parade. Congratulations, ladies.
On that note, I'd like to read out the names of our players from that varsity roster, and Dr. Bernal has a quick gift to present to them. Board, would you like to come up so you can shake some hands? All right, I've practiced names, but I apologize if I mess up. Ava Graves. Woo! Come on up. Nope. Oh, okay. Aislinn Rubio. Haley Johnston. Ella Smith. Kalia Crichton-Tuanai. Madeline Sagapulatelli. Jaylani Stewart. Lillian Schatz. Lacey Hoyleman. Kennedy Abbas. Despina Seafalamua. Sydney Newby. Madison Brock. Zoe LeBreton. April Rincon. Kaylani Crichton-Tuanai. And Farah Cardona. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize our coaches, head coach Lindy McNabb. This was her first year coaching the softball team, and if I am correct, the last time that our team was in the championship, she was a player. Is that correct? Oh, okay. That's okay. Jamie, and assistant coaches, Jamie Shear and Brooke Smith. We also had several volunteer coaches that assisted with this season. Ryan LeBreton. Did I miss anyone? Okay, and on that note, Well, Dave Jones, yes, Dave Jones, standing right behind me. Dave Jones is also a volunteer assistant coach. He can shake his own hand. No. All right, on that note, we will move on to our next item, but I just want to say once again, congratulations, ladies. What you have accomplished is incredible, not only for your athletic ability, but also, as they mentioned, your connection and your teamwork and camaraderie that has really been shown this season. So thank you.
All right. Any comments from board or?
Thanks, coaches. Thanks, girls. Thank you, parents. Without you, it's not getting done. Joe, Ryan, called it at 9. Thanks, girls.
I'll reiterate the same. Thank you, parents. Thank you, players. Well done. You left not in anyone's mind who was and who wasn't the state champ that Saturday. So for the seniors, wow, what an incredible Saturday. You graduated earlier that day and then made the trip out to Eugene and just showed what a Riverhawk really can be and do. So thank you. Well done on the state title. Hope you guys chase that record and climb up on that national. 4th is good, but number 1 would sound even better. So good job, and we'll see what you guys do next year. Thank you. Oh.
Girls, too, just if you want, when you look in your bag, you all can trade. Have fun.
Any coaches' words or anything before we move on? Absolutely. Well deserved. All right. So then we move on to our consent agenda that consists tonight of the school board meeting minutes from May 25th, 2023, and the personnel reports. Any comments from the board? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Make a motion to approve the school board minutes from May 25th, 2023.
All right, and do I have a second for that? All right, so I got a motion by Director Jones, seconded by Director Lopez to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further comments, questions? All right, not move to a vote. Director Lopez? Jones? Aye. Nelson? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. All right, so next is just review of the board action calendar. So again, as we look ahead, if there are any items that you'd like to cover in the upcoming board retreat, please send those to me via email. And then just kind of as a reminder, as we move forward into July, we'll have our organizational meeting. At that point, we'll elect the chair and vice chair for the upcoming year. We will have those new or re-elected board members take the oath of office, and then we will kind of reassign and reappoint the board committees at that time. So that'll be at our July meeting. And then as a reminder, I think we've all been seeing the emails from OSBA. Summer board conference is coming up, so please let Cindy know if you're looking to attend that. And I think it moved from Bend to Salem this year, so keep that in mind. Any questions though on upcoming calendar items? Okay. Move on to school board subcommittee reports. See, Wasco County Forest Collaborative, Director Nelson.
So I attended this month's meeting on June 8th. The Wasco County Forest Collaborative met in a joint session with the Hood River Forest Collaborative in the Dalles to hear a special presentation by Dr. Andrew Merschel to learn about the results of fire history study conducted, which he did the study, conducted on Barlow and Hood River Ranger districts. The research results provide new information about the historical role of fire in shaping the structure, competition, and ecological functions of local forest ecosystems. Also discussed were the implications of the research for restoration and fuels management projects on the east zone of the Mount Hood National Forest. And then I didn't give a report from last month in May, and so I included this report now in this issue of the board report. And I'll just say, I'm not going to describe what I wrote in detail, but it would be available to the public in the minutes of this meeting when they're published. But just in general, the partners from the Forest Service and the East Cascade Oaks Partnership joined Wasco County Forest Collaborative on a field trip. And the purpose of the trip was to monitor the implementation of treatments to reduce the fuel loads in the forest in multiple areas in Mount Hood National Forest. We went to different treatment spots and just looked at on the ground after things have been treated by the Forest Service. What do they look like? Did they achieve their objectives? Yes or no? That kind of thing. We went to various different places on the Mount Hood National Forest and talked about those things. And many of the places you don't really get the impact of what is happening on the ground unless you go and look at it visually. So field trips are really important in the summer for the Forest Collaborative to go on because we are giving recommendations to the Forest Service on how we think the management objectives should be. And so they take that into consideration, and they have to take that into consideration in order to do their work and get money to do their work. So forest collaboratives are a very integral part of the management of the national forest here, Mount Hood National Forest, your backyard. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Director Nelson. Lastly, D21 Ed Foundation, Director Jones. Okay. All right, that concludes our school board subcommittee reports. We move on to our staff reports. Is there anyone from D21? We'll wait for the girls to head out. Thanks, everyone. All right. Staff reports. Anyone from D21 EA or North Wasco ESPs wanting to speak tonight? Sonia, were you going to give an update? Nope. All right. Just making sure. All right, moving on to new business in our presentations and reports tonight. First, we're going to have a report from Dry Hollow Elementary, building report for the years. We'll have Principal Ross Miller. Oh, and Vice Principal Lloyd.
That's what I needed. So thank you to the school board for inviting us to share what's happened at Dry Hollow. I'm Elizabeth Rossmiller, principal.
I am Autumn Lloyd, Vice Principal.
And we just wanted to preface this with saying this presentation was not written by Mr. Kaiser. Therefore, we won't have as many or any at all funny jokes, wit, or most importantly, cute kids. You get us middle-aged women. So hopefully we don't catch you snoozing as we share some Dry Hollow happenings.
The fall brought us lots of change, including a new principal, a new to the job dean of students, new counselor and 6 new teachers, a new nurse, a new PE teacher, and many new ESP staff.
There's also a new literacy curriculum, Wit and Wisdom. We started the year before students came with collaborative learning at Dry Hollow and dove deeper into the Wit and Wisdom curriculum with other schools as well. The first week of school's early release allowed teachers the opportunity to dive even deeper into the new literacy curriculum and apply it with students.
We also brought back assemblies for the first time since pre-COVID. It was amazing to see everyone in one space celebrating positive character traits. Each month, the Dry Hollow community focused on a word of the month. The word was carefully chosen by the PBIS team led by me. These assemblies often included fun skits or student-led presentations. The first word of the month was friendship, which included painting rocks to be placed in our rock garden because friendship rocks.
We also brought back opportunities for parents to visit our school for family nights. The first ever event was our open house, which we had record number of attendees, and we ended up running out of popsicles. I think we had over 400 of them. We had some disappointed kids, but I made up for it the next day. Our other family nights, like STEM night and ELD family nights, were also very well attended.
And we brought in the school spirit with Spirit Week in October. It was exciting to see teachers get in on the fun and dress up as different book characters.
Fall is also time for the beginning of the year data collection. Our title and ELD teams and teachers assessed to learn about students' strengths and academic needs. Every child is assessed on their literacy and math skills. In the fall, teachers get together in grade level teams to look at this reading data and make instructional decisions. Students who are in need of the most additional support receive title reading intervention from our amazing title teachers, we have 2 of them, and their assistant. This data is continually reviewed throughout the school year to ensure we are making academic progress.
In the winter, we kicked PBIS up a notch with school-wide Pride Ticket goals. A Pride Ticket is given to students who show positive character. This may include helping others, being a good friend, showing the word of the month in action, or meeting a behavior goal. Students turned in Pride Tickets to win whole school rewards. Our first reward was the pajama day. It was amazing to see how fast those Pride Tickets were collected.
Our second reward was pie in the face, and I personally got several pies in my face, along with several other staff members, and I promise you they all volunteered. It was all good fun, and I have never heard our students scream so loud with excitement.
Winter was an additional time to view data with 20% meetings. These meetings ensure our students who need the most support in reading are getting the services they need. Some students made enough project to graduate out of additional intervention services. This is due to the hard work of their teachers and title specialists.
So we also wanted to make note of those early release Wednesdays. It's time for teacher collaboration and more talk about data. PLCs continued in winter as teachers worked hard to implement the Wit and Wisdom curriculum and best practices in literacy and math instruction.
The spring brought us warmer weather and state testing. We're proud of the hard work 3rd through 5th graders put into their statewide assessments in language arts, math, and science for 5th grade. Dry Hollow students did well, surpassing the state average in test scores.
Well, test scores may be important, what is most important is positively learning together and loving the journey along the way. Our teachers do just that. That is why May we celebrate them. Teacher appreciation is something special at Dry Hollow because we know how incredibly hard each teacher works to make learning magical for our students.
There were many events that concluded the school year for Dry Hollow. This included the Jogathon, more assemblies, a movie and popcorn day, and a staff versus student kickball game. And in case you're wondering, the staff won. We're undefeated, by the way. We also continued the traditions of Wagons Ho, which brings the Oregon Trail to life.
And the last day of school, we had a field day, and there was a line around the building of parents and students grabbing a hot dog and fries so that they could have a farewell lunch together. The building was completely full, so please don't tell the fire marshal.
Moving forward, Dry Hollow has a lot to celebrate and continued focus on growth. This year, we looked at behavior differently and will continue to do that. We will be putting new interventions in place to support our students' needs with the help of our counselor and SELA team.
Looking forward, we will also focus on our PLCs and work to look at instructional data with a renewed lens. This will give teachers an opportunity to collaborate and continue to make the best instructional decisions for our students.
We will return in August ready to take on the new year.
And we've learned a lot, and we will continue to grow.
All right, any questions from board members? All right, thank you for the update. All right, our next building report, we'll hear from Administrator Donna Schultes from Innovations Academy.
There's the button.
It means go. All right. Well, hello. I'm Donna Schultes. I'm the administrator of Innovations Academy, Innovations Virtual, and the Norcore Juvenile Facility. And today, I'm just excited to be here to share with you a summary of the first year. And there's a lot of celebrations, a lot of reflection. So just roll through a few slides and talk about it with you. So first of all, the programs. Innovations Academy in person at Watonka has been 6 through 12, with a total of 94 students this year. The Innovations Virtual, which is formerly known as MAP, has 111 total students. It has 21 K through 5, 27 middle school, and 63 high school students. And Norcore has a range of students ranging anywhere from 9 to 19 to 20 students at a given moment. And the unique nature of planning and improving the education system there is that many of the students are only there for 2 or 3 days and then they exit. And so thinking about how to richly, hopefully change their trajectory for them in a few days that they're there. So it's been a unique challenge, and I'm really enjoying that process at Norcore. So our students have are unique and thrive in a small school and virtual environments. Our staff create individual learning plans, graduation plans, and map career pathways. And every single teacher there, every staff member there, works incredibly hard to get to know these students and help them create these plans. I'm really proud of the work that they do. So I'm going to read to you a parent perspective. This is Julia Cardiel. She's also a teacher. She wanted me to read this to you. As a teacher at Innovations Academy this year, I have built rapport and connections with my students and fellow colleagues. Not only am I a teacher, I'm also a parent of a 6th grader here at Innovations. Prior to coming to Innovations, my student attended Mosier Community School. With a small class sizes offered at MCS, I was worried about my son integrating into the Dallas Middle School due to social anxiety and other learning disabilities. Innovations was the best fit for him. As a teacher and mother, I have not only witnessed my son flourish academically and socially, but I've witnessed all my students flourish in the same way. Innovations is a viable piece of our community, and while moving on next year to another school, my goal is to transition back to Innovations to help our students succeed and finish off their educational goals. And we have a few other parents that wanted to be here tonight, but everyone decided to have vacation this week. So hopefully we can have some parent testimonies in the future. So many students are credit deficient and struggle with very challenging events and medical conditions. This is at both the virtual school and in person. And it's important that we have a flexible learning environment for these students. They work to support their families. They need a hybrid model of education to gain credits and also to be supported so that they can work and earn credits at the same time. In addition, we have credit recovery every semester or every trimester and during the summer, which is really very beneficial for them. Our credit recovery is through our Edmonton program. It's an online program, and it's supported through our core teachers. So we strive to engage students through differentiated, rigorous academic programs, included project-based learning. And we did move we have woodshop now since January. I'm very proud of that. We have had the students have really made some beautiful cutting boards and have a lot of happy moments in the woodshop now. And they're learning to build a picnic table and learn some construction skills. So most of our students have regular attendance at the elementary and middle school levels. This is including the virtual and in person. However, many of the high schoolers struggle with consistent attendance online and in person. And our plan is to specifically address this through more rigorous lesson planning and utilizing project-based, hands-on experiential learning. So engagement keeps kids at school. So we're building a resilient school community through building positive relationships. Our staff form positive relationships with students to create a safe and trusted environment. This allows for their growth and development. A student can't learn if they don't feel safe. Teachers are highly skilled in their content areas and support trauma-informed education model. They strive to differentiate instruction as they understand the strengths and needs of their students. We're utilizing restorative conversations and circles in our classrooms to teach content and to resolve conflicts. The Innovations Virtual can be kind of a hidden program. It's hard right when you can't walk through and you can't just see what's happening. So I want to address this a little bit with some detail. So Innovations Virtual serves over 120 full-time online students. This includes our credit recovery that we have at Innovations in person. So several of them, they work or they are at school half the day, and then they need to take the rest of their classes online. So it's supported through study time with our in-person teachers, with the relationship they have with the virtual team. Over 50 students connected virtually with us to engage in their education. We support both Norcore and Kelly Avenue students and their programs. Secondary students alone earned 300 academic credits and counting. So think about that. 1 credit is 1 full year of English, science, what have you. So 300 credits for 111 students. I feel like that's pretty remarkable. Next year, we are prepared to offer 250 online courses for our K-12 students across 4 teachers. Our high school options offer a diverse range of topics to engage students wherever they are academically and whatever their future or technical interest might be. The online program is diverse in that it can be modified to meet the needs of even a special ed student. So it's very customizable. And our team is learning how to do that more efficiently. It's taken some training, and now we're bringing that training out to other teachers to improve our credit recovery system. Online assignments ask complex questions, and teachers give detailed feedback. I think it's important to know that just because it's online doesn't mean that it isn't very rigorous. So students that are looking for a college-bound program, they can achieve that. Online students are dedicated, and they rise to the challenge. You can see that in this slide, there's a lot of data collection that happens within the system. The time on task for this geometry course was 90 hours, 24 minutes, 56 seconds. And you can see 139 hours to pass their English class. This is a lot of seat time and dedication to pass a class. Innovations Virtual meets daily for live lessons and grade level advisory groups, and this is called House. Our in-person innovations team also have House once a day, so we have advisory time for all of our students. And building community online is a little bit trickier than building it in person. So here's an example of some creative ways that our staff uses to just let them connect and get to know each other and have a sense of classroom community. And last but not least, I think it's important to celebrate successes. So we had our first graduation, which was really amazing just to see these young people that potentially didn't even ever realize that they were going to graduate, and then think about getting enrolled in technical programs in college. It's a very, very good day. So our graduation rate at Innovations Academy is 73%, with 11 graduates, and 4 of them are finishing up this summer in their Admentum programs with supported teachers, or we have a one-on-one with each one of those 4 seniors to make sure that they finish. So we're excited about that for them. Innovations Virtual had a 100% graduation rate with 16 graduates this year, for a total of 27 graduates and 4 more to go. So there are also 42.5 credits awarded to NORCOR students this year, which I think is a very remarkable number. When you think about that's each class, that means 1 class down, each one, especially since they're only there for an average of a week. So I just want to thank all of you for making it possible to have an alternative education model for our students, and for allowing me to be here to lead it. So thank you.
All right, any questions, comments from the board?
I have one. So going into next year, what areas do you want to work on to, because you feel it'll be dynamic, a good change? Anything special that you want to focus on for next year?
Yes, absolutely. The focus next year is engagement through project-based, place-based education models. And we plan to utilize some co-teaching methodologies to enhance this practice. So we have some thematic teaching happening with real-world connections.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very excited.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I just want to say thank you for graduation, awesome. For the other board members, so I did attend Innovations Academy's graduation. One, it was a great event that Ms. Schultes and her staff put, but more importantly, being able to see the students and their families and just the energy and the atmosphere in that room was very awesome to see. Like Ms. Schultes said, like there's probably some of those students that probably didn't see themselves get to that point, and actually see them be able to celebrate with their families was very awesome to see. And it further reinforced to me kind of the need for the program to make sure that we cast as wide of a net we can for the students in this community. So just kudos to Ms. Schultes and her staff on an awesome event. And then I think we're doing some great work with innovation. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else from Ms. Schultes? All right. Thank you so much. All right. That concludes the building reports. Next report is our superintendent's report. We'll start with a bond presentation. We'll have Jeremy Wright from Wright Public Affairs, Dr. Bernal, our Director of Communications, Stephanie Bowen, our CFO, Carol Flatt, present that.
Actually, Jeremy's going to do the presentation.
Good evening, Jeremy Wright, Wright Public Affairs. I am here today. Last time we were here, I was with the group and we were presenting to you all the results of the Bond Development Committee and the range that they recommended to the board of possible bond amount and projects. Since that time, we've done some work with the public, and what I'm going to present tonight is a survey of your community, a poll we did to get a sense of, one, both what is the viability, and two, what are some of the messages that if you were to go forward to place a bond on the ballot that would be useful to use. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to give you those two important elements to winning a bond campaign. So just walking through, next slide. So I'm going on mine, but then it didn't do that. That's really funny. Okay, sorry. What we called 400 likely November 2023 voters, mostly cell phones, but some landlines. We conducted these interviews May 30th, June 1st. Please keep in mind the margin of error throughout this poll is 4.9%. So it's about 95% level of confidence. So 1 to 2%, this may be a little bit of noise. And throughout the survey, we refer back to our previous bond survey. And if you remember, we conducted that in October of 2022. Next slide. Understanding your electorate, we always like to put this slide in before we start talking about numbers. On the left-hand column is all of the registered voters in your school district, okay? So that is everyone, regardless of whether they vote, or as long as they're registered. And you'll see there you're about split 50-50 on over age 50, under age 50. You see the partisan lean down there at the bottom. You have a huge amount of registered independents and almost an even split between Democrats and Republicans. Now, when you look at a likely November 2023 electorate, this is who we estimate is going to vote in November 2023, and people we asked them in the survey, plus we know their behavior, with their history of whether they vote, not how. And you'll see that it's a much older electorate from your registered, 77% over age 50. You'll see about 58% are former or future parents or current parents, and 20% current parents, and more partisan, much fewer independents. And the reason for that is people who tend to be registered with a party tend to be older, they vote, are more engaged, they vote. The reason you have such a large independent number now is A, that's the fastest growing party in Oregon, and has been for 30 years. It's not a party, but independent. But B, with automatic voter registration now, everyone's registered, and they're registered as independent to start, and then you have to opt in. So people who tend to be people who voted for a while and want to participate. So we always like to point that out, so when we're talking about November 2023, please keep that in mind. Next slide. Okay, keep going, lay of the land. So the first question we asked is understanding the condition of the Dallas High School, since this is the facility you're going to replace. So at the bottom here, you see the question, do you think the Dallas High School is an excellent, good, fair, or poor? As you see here, there is a awareness in your community that it's 43% think it's either poor or fair condition, and 23% think it's good at excellent. I'm sure you would love to meet that 6% over there. I think it's an excellent condition. But in general, you have also a huge swath of people who just don't know. And that's pretty common. 35% have no opinion of the condition of your high school. And that's because they haven't gone in it, right? Like, there's not a reason to go into a school very often if you don't have kids. So this shows us that we have work to do just around educating people about the condition of your current high school. Next slide. Oh, this is a different, okay. We're working off, I think this is a slightly older presentation. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So let's go to, one after that. Okay. We'll come back to that slide I did before. So the first thing we did is, the next thing we did, not the first, is ask people their support for a $140 million package. On the right, you'll see our question, which is bonds replacing high school, sports facilities, centralizing services, increasing safety. Shall district replace high school, sports facilities, increase safety, issue $140 million in general obligation bonds with citizen oversight. So we tried to mimic what ballot language would look like. That's a 10-word caption, 20-word question. And you see where you start. A plurality, people are in favor. You've increased support since October 2022, but you are below 50% threshold. I want to highlight too that the intensity of support among opposition is higher than intensity of support among people who support it. So intensity of opposition is higher. So people who really strongly are no, 22%, only 13% are strong yes. And so, what this tells us, a couple of things. One, we have work to do among that 20% undecided. Two, you are going to need to do a lot of work of that light shaded blue, which is this light support that's not strong yes. Those can be moved to, strong yes, or it can be moved to no. Those are movers. Next slide. Age and parental status are major indicators of support. So going back to that slide that I told you, like November 2023 electorate, skew older, but among our younger voters, under age 50, 68% margin of support. They understand the need. Among older voters, though, there is we have trouble. We need to work with them, work on that. Among current parents, the ones who actually have been in your school, 65%, 65-point support margin. So we know that those are two key subgroups that are going to be really key to your victory if you move forward. Next slide. And similar gaps among partisan leans. This is not surprising. We see this in we work all over the state. A lot of clients, Democrats more inclined to support a tax measure than Republicans. Independents, slightly more supportive. This is a pretty typical spread. And then we also see the same kind of spread among college versus non-college educated. You see that split a lot among support for tax measures. Next slide. So the next thing we did was, knowing that you were looking at a range based on your bond development committee of between about 120 and 140 million, we tested the different packages. And I want to highlight in this that we actually call out the price per 1,000 as well, because that's what people really pay attention to. At the end of the day, 120, 140 million is just a very large number, right? What's it going to cost to me? And they want to know what it's going to buy. So we do it in the English explanation as opposed to the bond language, which is, ballot language. So the 140 million, I'll read this and then a bond that would cost the average homeowner $3.12 per 1,000 of assessed value. This bond would allow the district to replace the Dallas High School with a building that meets safety and educational standards for the day instead of those from 1940. The new building would provide increased space for career and technical opportunities. Unlike the current high school, the building would be fully accessible for students, staff, and community members with disabilities. The current high school would be repurposed, receiving basic repairs allowed to centralize services, creating efficiencies by locating things like children services and community programs in the building. The bond would also pay for the demolition of existing Wetumpka campus, creating space for in-demand athletic fields. And then the next, we did 130, and we read all that, but it would be $2, a smaller bond, it would be $2.90 per thousand. That would do everything we named above, except the bond would not fund the demolition of Wetumpka campus to create space for in-demand athletic fields. And finally, 120 million, a smaller bond that would cost $2.57 per thousand assessed value. This bond would do the things above, except it would not fund construction of additional space at the new high school for career and technical education. It would not fund the demolition of the Wetumpka campus, create space for in-demand athletic fields. So we went down and took things off. And how did it test? Next slide. You'll see here that really the only viable at this point, once you give people the price per thousand, is the $120 million option. The reality here is that as soon as you give people that price per thousand, we actually picked up opposition. You'll see that in the red bar. It's very hard to win from a place of 43%, I'll be honest, starting. But, with the 120 million, that gives you a little more viability. And you're ahead of the opposition, essentially. Next slide. Can you go back to that slide that was way at the beginning? We moved it, I probably moved it on you. So I put this one after that last because one of the things we wanted to do is get a sense of that prioritization because, your athletic folks are super enthusiastic, but is that reflective of the community, right? And so we asked a question, based on what's the following, do you feel is more important for the school bond we've been discussing is creating additional space at the high school for CTE, demolishing the existing Wetumpka campus in order to create in-demand athletic fields, both, neither, or don't know. And you'll see here among both parents and the general community over here on the right-hand column, if you're going to spend money on something above 120 million, they want to see you spend it on CTE training at the high school over prioritizing or doing athletic, demolishing Wetumpka and creating space for in-demand athletic fields. A few said both, 13%, but those are the folks who are going to be most core supporters, right? And a bunch don't know, and that's because they have never thought about this issue. So we just want to give you a little bit of a path. If you had to pick and choose between that 120 and 140 and pull out specific projects, this is why we asked that question. So going on to messaging. So this is one where I'm going to read some stuff before you put that up, please. We added. So what we did with the messaging is we tested a whole battery of messages of areas of we thought could potentially be good messages for you to talk about this bond. We have a safety and security section. We talked about air quality. The Dallas High School is so old, but the basic air conditioning doesn't work with wildfires and smoke. This is something that's a real issue. Security, it's our responsibility to do everything to protect against school shooting. There's 28 unmonitored entrances at the Dallas High School. Seismic, same thing. And then we talked about accountability and workforce stuff in the economy. So CTE, meet growing demand for that. Children's and families, repurposing the Dallas High School for a community center. Efficiency allows us, if we repurpose the Dallas High School, the district can move all of its stuff in. Accountability, sports and economy. If we update our fields, we bring more folks in, athletic tournaments, stuff like that. So we asked all that. We also asked questions on, basic repairs, the warm, safe, and dry. This is, this bond measure funds basic repairs that allows us to keep a historic building in operation. We need to update the Dallas High School. ADA, our school is our community resource, and everyone should have access to it. I'm paraphrasing these just for time. And so out of those 15 messages we tested, what rose to the top, now you can do it, is message flank number one, is safety and security. We need to, if you're thinking about how you do your elevator pitch, we have to do everything to prioritize our students and staff and safety of our community. That, that 28 unmonitored entrances statement actually rises pretty high. People, took that, and that blue box means it's drivers of support among undecided or soft supporters. And then seismic is another one that landed in terms of making sure that your new high school would not just be safe for students and staff, but what it says in here is it would be a disaster shelter for the community in case of a seismic or wildfires or smoke. I know you just had something happen yesterday, and so you're having a brand new space that meets those standards in community center. So that's a safety flank. Next slide. And then the other message is providing the necessary basic repairs, improving access to quality education. So this is one where you combine this idea of repairing the Dallas High School so it's a space that can be used for the community, and at the same time, we are doing stuff at the new high school that is like ADA accessibility. That's very popular for you folks, that everyone should have access to your facility. In CTE is another one. Partnering with local businesses, giving kids hands-on training, very popular. So if you're thinking about, and then next slide, and these are just words and majorities believe, where they're like, it's reinforcing what I just talked about, but we ask a battery of phrases. And so, making sure increasing student and staff safety, that's top. Modern classrooms, so kids can learn in today's learning environment. Allowing a district to meet its motto to educate, motivate, and graduate students. Ensuring students college and career ready, strengthens access to job training. All these education-focused messages, along with safety and security, were ones that were best testing if you're going to think about how to talk about it. And then next slide. And then we tried to do some ones around local economy and accountability, and these don't test as well. So thinking a little bit about going out there and say we're trying to be accountable to taxpayers for keeping costs down, or urgent priority we can't say no to. That doesn't work. That doesn't work as well. The kid-oriented, safety-focused messaging is much better. And then next slide. And then this is one where this is your challenge. So then we ask people some of the negative traits. We'll put a strain on seniors and struggling families living on a fixed income, something you can't afford right now. You'll notice that the other two, address the wrong priorities or lead to wasteful government spending, don't land very well, right? But there is a real price sensitivity in your community, and you're going to have to address that and really get after, okay, people are thinking, is this something I can afford right now? And they don't know. And there's a percentage that are worried about that. And so as you think about going forward, understanding that price sensitivity as you talk about this is a critical component of winning this thing. Next try. And so where do we end? This is good news. We continue to move forward. One of the things I always look for in a survey is continued progress. As educators, I'm sure you do as well, right? In not staying flat. So the good news is you continue to pick up support. You also continue. So we asked the final question. We asked it 3 times, right? So at the beginning, the middle, and this we asked again at the end. You move, 10% of the undecided moved into, either yes or no. You picked up more no than yes, which is a little concerning, but you still are ahead. So you're still in the lead from that middle time we asked. So tells me there's a path. It's going to be a close one, but if there's a path. Next slide. I think with yours, that's, yeah. And so in terms of people who actually, in terms of people who move, I'll just summarize this. There's a lot of stuff on there, but there are targets who are people who are undecided, yes, not strongly, and then there are positive shifters, people who go from no or undecided to yes, and we know who those folks are, and there really are younger voters and parents. All that stuff, just take away younger voters and parents. Those are the people who are going to move the most that we need. And I started the thing talking about it and end with it. At the end of I think that's it for the presentation. I think if I were to summarize where you are today, I don't think it'd be a surprise to you. You have a community that, is tax sensitive, you have a significant ask in front of them. Your ability to win this effort is going to be predicated on a couple things. A poll is a snapshot in time. This is them getting 12 minutes of information or 14 minutes on the phone. This is likely people who are likely to vote. To move, campaigns matter. Education matters, right? And so to move folks and get above 50% is going to require a significant effort from both your community and your school district to be able to get people involved, get folks out, understanding, making the case, all these things. So this is where you stand today, not where you're going to be in November. If you were to do nothing, I know you're not going to, but say you had just put it on the ballot and said you would probably have 15% more no voters in this survey, because in the absence of information, people will. So I know you're not going to do that, but if you move forward and place this on the ballot, place it with the seriousness that you understand the effort ahead of you and that you can win this, but it's going to take all hands. I'll stop there.
Questions, comments? Mr. Wright?
It was so we pulled a sample from your voter file and then screened it for likely November 2023 voters. So we know from looking at the voter file whether they have a history of voting in smaller elections. And then we asked them at the beginning of the survey, are you planning on voting? And then there was a randomized sample. What we do is make sure that that's weighted for reflective of your community sample. So it's not just calling randomly and then accidentally calling 400 people over the age 50 and men, right? So we're going to wait and make sure that we are calling the universe that looks like your targeted election.
Any other questions or comments? I think this is more just for context, just so folks understand, is as we look at these percentages, what we need come November is 50 plus one of those who vote.
Correct.
So when you think about that, to Jeremy's point, is that it's going to take probably everyone in this room to talk to everyone that you know about the investment that we need for our students at TDHS, right? It's going to take a lift and time, effort on all our parts to do that, because as you saw, we're under 50, but we got to get the 50 and then the 1. And that's what would make that a reality that some, like Mr. Evans back there, have been looking forward to for a while now. But any other questions or comments?
I'll just add a hopeful story.
Yep.
So in May of this last year, just this last May, we were working with the Sherwood School District on a levy, and they had a situation where they had a $7 million hole in their budget due to some circumstances of previous work administration, and they were going to lay off 80 educators. And so we did a poll for them, and they never got above 47% in the poll because it was a new tax, and the community was, and they went out and did their work, and we wound up winning at 58%. So it's same path, right? They went out and targeted those parents and went out and targeted those likely yes voters that we know from our polling. And those likely yes voters outperformed when I polled the vote afterwards, the precinct performance, the actual votes, they outperformed by 13 percentage points any other subgroup. And that was a campaign going out and the school district, both going out and talking to every parent over and over again, getting them to vote. So just wanted to end on the positive.
Jeremy, any other questions or comments? As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, for those that are here tonight and you want to make any comment in relation to the bond, I know we have Mr. Jared Gossin already signed up. Anyone else, this is kind of the time to make any comment you'd like to make regarding the bond. So Mr. Wright, thank you. And then we'll start off with Mr. Gossin. Bless you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here and for the work that I know all of you have done working on this bond. I was part of the bond planning committee and saw the reality of the high school. I actually graduated from Watonka High School, but even then we were underfunded, facing lacks. I mean, we were dropping art by the time the school is about to close, and being in that environment where you don't have those opportunities to learn extra, especially when you're craving that, it doesn't help. So I really want to impress upon people I know the 120 bond looked like it was more appealing, but the CTE training is going to be super important to our community. And even in the numbers, I know it's very contrary looking at those numbers, but humans are, pushing that we have that CTE option for the new school is going to be extremely important to not just for the future, but even, I think, in landing the bond when talking to parents. So that's just my comment, is I really want to encourage the CTE to be part of this bond so our kids and our community have a better opportunity for a future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goss. Anyone else want to comment regarding the bond? Mr. Mays?
Testing. I was also part of the committee that met about 5 times to discuss this, and it just seems that the more you can reduce the cost, the greater the likelihood of success. Of the 4 categories that were listed as being negative factors, 3 of them were tied to finance. So it seems to me that if we can somehow reduce the cost by looking for opportunities to get money from other sources, the chances of it passing would be enhanced. And I thought when I was on the committee and even afterwards, I had asked if the survey, when we do the second survey, if the question could be asked whether people's attitude would have a more favorable attitude toward the bond if they knew that, for example, additional revenues were being raised by the sale of property, or whether and I know the state grant is only $5 million, I believe it is, but $4 million, it's still $4 million that would be off the tax rolls. And the other point I raised is that I don't see, there seems to be a lack of effort to talk to the city and the county about the Google money that's out there. And that is certainly more significant than the $4 million state grant or any sale of school district property. And I don't know if that question was ever asked on the second survey or not, but I haven't heard anything since I put that request in. I personally think those are critical factors. And I was around here 4 years ago. I ran for mayor in 2018. And because I didn't know very many people, I talked to a lot of people before I ran and heard a lot about the schools and the lack of trust. And I think we have, with one exception, we have a brand new school board. We have a brand new superintendent. I don't think the trust issue is there anymore. I like to think it's not. But I do think there's going to be a lot of questions about the points that I've raised and what possible answers there could be. And maybe Jeremy can answer that, or unless the questions were never asked. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Anyone else here want to say any words regarding the bond? All right. Okay, that concludes just the comment for the bond measure. Next, we'll have a technology report from Director of Technology, Mr. Stan Felderman.
Thank you, members of the board, for having us here tonight. Along with me, I'm Stan Felderman, the Director of Technology for the school district, and along with me is Ben File, who is our network engineer for the school district. One of the things I wanted to bring up tonight was something that we've been working on for the past several months. Something that has been pretty important to the district is the PACE insurance requirements for cybersecurity and some of the things that we are doing in regards to that. Currently, we are working on a comprehensive plan, a cybersecurity incident response plan that we will be implementing before the end of the month. We have the working copy. It is being reviewed by several different individuals to make sure that we are hitting every aspect of for our response plan. Also, we've got board policies, which I think you guys are approving, you folks are approving tonight for cybersecurity. Some of the things that we are working on that we're going to have to roll out of this next year is multi-factor authentication, which is to secure how people log into the school systems, how they log into the network, how they log into their email, and how they log into other systems within our financial systems and such, and student systems. And so we are looking at starting this in the first quarter of, with a test in the first quarter of this next fiscal year. And we'll start with some key folks at North Wasco, as well as the ESD. We'll be rolling it out by departments at the ESD, and then we'll be key folks at North Wasco, which would be a lot of the folks up in the district office and such. And then we're going to have the entire district completed sometime between third and fourth quarter, and have that in place. Another key part that we have to do this next year is endpoint protection, ensuring that all of our servers and all of our computer systems are fully protected. That has to be also implemented by June 30th of 2024. Currently, we're working with several vendors to see what they have to offer and what fits best for the district and the other districts that we serve. And we're projected to select a vendor probably by the end of first quarter of this fiscal year 23-24 and start implementing about third quarter of fiscal year 23-24. Some of the things that we have already achieved at this point are we do provide backups on a daily basis for all of our systems, but we are looking at some better systems that would enhance those backups and give us better ability to recover those systems. And then also, this would recover all of our servers and all of our network systems, which are critical to our infrastructure. A big thing that is going to be happening this next fall is we are actually going to be performing a cybersecurity tabletop exercise where we're going to be working with an agency called CISA, which stands for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And what they're going to do is they're going to come in and we're going to actually do a tabletop exercise, and they're going to evaluate how well we handle a potential cybersecurity incident that would hit this district. And we'll be working with key people from North Wasco. We'll also be inviting some folks from Dufur and South Wasco to join us on that. This branch, the CISA branch, is located in Salem, and actually we'll have our first planning session with them at the end of this month. We have also several other projects that we're going to be working on this summer. Ben File is going to be explaining a couple of those here in a minute. Another thing that we're going to be working on also is additional camera systems within our schools. We're going to be adding another close to 40 cameras within our buildings. So that's another project that we're going to be working on to also help the security systems, or the security of our buildings and our structures. And then I'll turn it over to Ben.
Good evening, members of the board. As Stan mentioned, my name is Ben File. I'm the network engineer for the Columbia Gorge ESD. And I'm just going to provide an overview and update on some of the E-rate projects that we are working on in your district. So E-rate is a federal program under the FCC that provides reimbursement funds to education entities to help with the costs associated with internet access, as well as the cost associated with the operation of computer networks. And North Wasco is currently eligible for an 85 to 90% reimbursement on these projects, depending on the scope. So the first project we're closest to completion on is replacing some legacy fiber optic communication lines that run currently between the Watonka building on 10th Street going up to the district office, and then also from the Watonka building over to Chenoweth Elementary. So these old fiber optic lines were originally installed in the early 90s, and they serve as the backbone connection for both the district office and Chenoweth Elementary. Compared to every other building in the district, those buildings are connected to the Q-Life, Quality Life fiber optic network, which currently provides about a 40 times the capacity that these old communication lines have. So this project was originally started in 21-22 school year, but we ran into some issues with Quality Life and their contract renewal with their contractor that does the construction. So they have since made an agreement with a new contractor, and we began construction this week. And as of this afternoon, they finished running those communication lines from the utility poles, bringing them into the buildings. We just need to finish the terminations on those cables, and then at the end of the month, there is a scheduled cutover date, bringing those into our existing Q-Life backbone network. We have two other fiber-related projects, one here at the middle school, and then also at the Dallas High School. So in a modern computer network, it's typical that data closets within buildings are connected with fiber optic cable. However, at the high school, almost none of those data closets are connected using fiber optic cabling. They're using legacy copper category 5E cabling, and we're running into similar issues that we are with this old fiber over at Chenoweth and the district office, where basically this old copper lines, they're pushed to their maximum capacity in terms of speed and bandwidth, and also in reliability. For example, with a fiber cable, there's usually multiple strands in that single cable that you can use for communication. So if one strand is bad, you usually have at least 5 other strands in the cable you can use. Unfortunately, with copper, that's not the case. If the fiber or if the cable is damaged in any way, you have to run a new line. So we have around 15 data closets at the high school connected using copper cabling. And this summer, we'll be working with Mosier Wynet. They're an internet service provider based out of Mosier, and their subcontractor, Glacier Electric, out of White Salmon. And we'll be installing all new fiber optic cabling between those data closets at the high school. And then similarly, at the middle school here, when the building was built in the early 2000s, they actually unfortunately used an older fiber optic cable standard from the late 80s. And so that cable here as well has been pushed to its limits. So we'll be pulling out all of the old fiber optic cabling, going between data closets here at the middle school, and then Mosier Wynet, along with Glacier Electric, will also be running new fiber optic cable here in between those data closets. The new fiber optic cabling, it is capable of almost 1,000 times the bandwidth and speed of the old cable. So the intention is that we'll install this new cable, and we should be at least set for another 30 years plus. One last E-rate project we have here at the middle school. It is scheduled for next year, but due to supply chain issues, we're not really quite sure when that project will start. But we will be refreshing and replacing all of the Wi-Fi and network switch equipment here at the middle school. We chose to start with the middle school, but over the next few years, we'll be slowly replacing all of the network equipment at each school building. But we chose the middle school simply because it is the most straightforward when it comes to network design. It's the newest building. It's one of the most important school networks. I'd argue probably the high school is the most important. However, the high school, with the age of the building, the additions, the network infrastructure there and wiring is quite complex. So we're starting out with the middle school. We'll be ordering that new equipment starting in July, but with network equipment back orders, it's usually 6 to 12 months before we receive that equipment. So probably Q1, maybe Q2 of 2024 is when we'll start that project. And then once we have the equipment up and running, we can adapt a solution for the high school the following year. And that concludes our E-rate update.
Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So at the end of next year, then all from MDF to IDF, then we'll have fiber essentially at all the buildings to connect kind of each of those.
At the middle school and high school, yes. And that's for, MDF to IDF closets. There will be fiber optic cabling. Every building in the school district currently does have a fiber backbone connection. So think of the district's network is like a ring where each building sits as a hop on the ring. So they have a fiber line coming in and a fiber line going out to the next building on that ring. And our data center is also on that ring where we connect out to the internet. So every building has a fiber connection to that backbone, except for Chenoweth and the district office, but they will after that project is complete.
Okay. And then, so with that, when you're talking the equipment, are you talking the WAPs, wireless access points, that'll be swapped out?
Yes, yeah, we'll be replacing wireless access points and network switches.
Will that also have an increase in them to make sure we have enough coverage for just wireless capability at each facility, or are we just replacing one-to-one?
So at the middle school, we're currently planning on replacing one-to-one. I believe we did order a few extras just in case of equipment failure, but also in terms of capacity, this equipment is rated to be a higher quality and higher, larger range equipment than what we currently have in place. So we should have better
see an
coverage.
increase of just capability and performance.
Yep,
that folks will experience in a building just by virtue of just switching over from the Cat 5 over to fiber to connect our closet.
Exactly.
So
Yes, yeah, and we'll be eliminating some bottlenecks in the network currently. Typically, a host device will have a 1 gigabit connection, and then the uplink for that area of the building will be at least 10 times the host connection to accommodate multiple devices connecting at once. Unfortunately, in the high school, most of the uplinks are rated at 1 gigabit, so the same speed as a host. So that means a single host can saturate an entire area of the building, which is not ideal. So this will increase that backbone uplink capacity exponentially.
And then I got to imagine, so like a building like Chenoweth, like getting the fiber connection there, getting the closets connected with fiber, then our ability to add more PoE items would be better. So I'm thinking, there's needs like things like intercom system and other, elements like that, that once we have the network up and running, we can actually start considering some of those elements to make those upgrades, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I know I didn't mention this, but we do have an E-rate project this summer as well for Mosier Community School. And we will be essentially gutting all of their old Cat 5 and lower cabling, as well as they do not have any fiber as well. And we'll be installing all new fiber and all new Cat, I think 6A. So the plan is to slowly work our way through each building in the district as well, and do that 1 year at a time in District 21.
Cool. Any other questions, comments? All right, thanks guys, great work. It's awesome to hear. All right, next we'll hear from Dr. Manal regarding just a slight modification to school calendars for 23, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 26.
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize, we're bringing the calendars back once again. We do have one slight proposed revision, and this would be to the first day of school and establishing a transition day for our students who are new to their campus. So think about your kindergarten students who are experiencing kindergarten for the first time, our 6th graders who are transitioning to the middle school, and our 9th graders who are transitioning to the high school. And typically, the first day of school has been for grades 6 and 9, and then K-5 all come together. And this past spring, we, under the leadership of Principal Vieira, who I'd like to thank for taking on the challenge, established a kindergarten work group based on some of our things we experienced with our youngest learners this past year. We had representation from all 3 elementary schools on that work group, and one of the recommendations that came out of that was to have a day, just like the 6th and 9th graders get their own day on their campus, to also have that for our youngest learners. And then our rest of our teachers and staff that day would be all hands on deck to welcome and support our youngest learners and help establish relationships with them and set them up for success. So we're proposing that the first day be called now a transition day for just kinder, 6th, and 9th. And the official first day of school for K-12 would be the very next day. Any questions?
All right, questions or comments? If not, we do have to approve this revision, so if there's no questions or comments, then I will entertain a motion.
We'll make a motion to approve the readopted school calendars for 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26 as presented.
All right, do I have a second? All right, got a motion by Director Jones to readopt the school calendars for the years 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26 as presented, and seconded by Director Lopez. Any further comment, question on that? I'll move to a vote. Director Lopez? Aye. Director Jones? Aye. Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Richardson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Anything else, Dr. Bernal?
That is all.
All right. So with that, we'll move on to our Chief Financial Officer's report. Ms. Kara Flath.
Hello. I changed the expenditure status report a little bit to reflect the items in both the supplemental budget hearing and the resolution I provided for you. So you can see what the projected ending budget categories would look like with those adjustments. With that, there is only one negative, which is in our 242 funds. There's 14,000 in there. That's probably coded incorrectly. So I am looking at that. We shouldn't have those kind of expenditures in that area. So we have to make an adjustment there, which we still have plenty of time to do. I didn't include a write-up on this one. It was a quick turnaround. The ending fund balance right now with the general fund is pretty small, so I'm hoping we can get that built up through the end of the year. We do still expect several funding sources to come in, but the offsetting piece, so I talked last month about the $3 million in the general fund, which is, we didn't achieve. $2 million was because of the adjustment with revenue, and then the $1 million had to do with revenue from the year before. So again, the strategy is to make this next year as hopefully as painless as possible and have as little fluctuation, because you've already heard me complain about the school funding formula, so trying to keep that level. The one thing that would affect next year is enrollment. So you project an enrollment number in January of this year. And if you look at our enrollment numbers, we're still from the start of September to June 5th, we're actually 130 less than we were. So that is a little concerning, because in January, when I do a projection, it's going to be higher. So it's going to be higher than what we have on here. So it'll be interesting to see how we start off the year in September. The important month comes in December, because that's the big count that they're going to use to start redoing the calculation. So the two factors that affect the state school fund the most are enrollment revenue projections. So having gone off on that tangent, everything else is still staying on track with where we expected. The large change has to do with our federal funding. We've spent more in our ESSER 3 funds. So ESSER 1 was depleted last year. ESSER 2 is completely depleted by the end of this year. And ESSER 3 is majority, well, it's probably 2/3 used this year. So next year, that'll create some other obstacles that we have to certainly evaluate as the year goes on, and especially once we see what enrollment looks like. So even if the state school fund goes on to 10.3, that's only 300,000 more than what we anticipated in our budget write-up. And the budget for next year is accounting for every funding source coming true, right? Which finance people that hardly ever happens. So there's a lot of concerns going into next year, so we'll keep our eye on it and keep having conversations. I kind of skipped ahead, but I wanted to know, to make sure you understood the impact that this budget will have on the next year's budget. There's a couple of highlights. We are gearing up, since I didn't do a financial write-up, we are gearing up for our summer food programs. We have a couple of sites that will be set up. We do have our fabulous food truck, which if you've driven by Watonka, is sitting in the parking lot. It looks great. Students did a great job, or the student that did the design. The hang-up for it is actually getting a health department license is a little more challenging than you think. We are going for, it's more than you probably want to know, but we're going for a class 4 license, which means we could cook raw food in there. And the goal would be that we could rent the truck out, like with the Booster Club. If they want to cook hamburgers and French fries, they could bring in raw hamburger. So a couple of the challenges are the tanks. The clear water tank is 20 gallons too short, and the gray water tank is like 15 gallons too short because the rules actually changed like a month ago. So we're working through with the health department and hope to have that by the start of the school year. So my hope was summer, but that will not come around. Another thing we recently, that Stephanie helped us discuss, is it sounds silly, but weed management for the district. Right now we can't spray weeds. We have to go through a course rating. We had staff turnover. Integrated pest management is a very big deal, and so we have to go through and jump some hoops. So we're using watering and things like that, but we literally can't go spray. So be patient. Come August, after maintenance has the right training and has the plan set and approved by the state, it'll improve. But I just want to give that warning, because I know we all look at it and go, look at all the weeds, but we're working on it. That is all I had for my notes. And Stan gave a stellar job with IT, so I didn't include anything in there. Any questions about that?
Just on the integrated pest management, are we just getting Dan, or is there more than Dan?
We're actually going to officially have Ryan, who's our Sodexo employee, for a variety of reasons, but Dan is also being trained, so we're going to have both of them trained.
That's what I was more interested in, multiple rather than, so if someone's out, we still have someone that is able to
absolutely.
Spray and everything. Okay.
Yeah, and part of the strategy for Ryan is that then Sodexo is kind of responsible for what Ryan's doing.
Gotcha. Any other questions or anything else enrollment-wise?
Yeah, sorry. The only comments I was going to make, as you look through, September to June, it appears, and I think it's no surprise, and I think Principal Evans has said this, the high school seems to be the biggest fluctuation, and I know there's a lot of people that graduate mid-year and go out, so it might be kind of a normal trend. It's my first mostly normal year here, so it may just be how that happens every year with the high school, but aside from that, the innovations program has gone down a little bit. Mosier's come down in the middle school a little bit, but for the most part, they're all pretty relatively close. So, we'll just keep an eye on it. It's an interesting thing to watch, and I'll do some more trending, and maybe so you can see month to month what it looks like as we go through the year basis. Any questions or anything you'd want to see about it?
Thank you. All right, our final report tonight, Board Attorney report. Mr. Corey, anything from your end?
Just to give you an update on the third-party investigations, the in-field interviews occurred last week. There is some additional follow-up information that he is pursuing, asking to be provided, and when that has been completed, I'll get a report from him. I'm hopeful that by next school board meeting we'll have that information, although don't hold me to that because I don't have any control over how quickly he'll get it done. But that's what I'm looking to.
For that update. All right, that concludes our report. So move on to our discussion and action items. First item that we have is, as I communicated to the board, I did receive a resignation from Brian Stevens, the current director of Zone 5. So as many of you know, he pursued and has been extended the boys basketball coaching position at TDHS. So he is looking to resign. So as board policy BBC states, we do have to declare the vacancy on this zone. Based on the timing, that means that position would need to be, after appointment, it would need to be whoever would be appointed, they would be up for re-election or election in 2025. So we'd be looking about a 2-year term. So given just kind of how the timing lays out, we have minimum, I think it was 20 days of advertisement for the vacancy. It'd be a little kind of rushed, in my opinion, to try and get someone or get all the applications in and try and interview and appoint someone for our July meeting. So I'm recommending that we just have a longer application period, and then we look to bring in applicants in our August meeting, and then look to appoint someone at that time so that we have a little more time. As we know, summers can be busy. People are not available or traveling, family vacations and whatnot. So I think having a longer application period makes the most sense. Any thoughts on that, timing wise? Okay. Then, nothing, then I'll look for a motion to accept the resignation of Brian Stevens.
I'll move to accept the resignation of Brian Stevens, Director Zone 5, and declare the position vacant.
All right, do I have a second? All right, so we've got a motion by Director Richardson, seconded by Director Jones, to accept the resignation of Brian Stevens. Any further questions or comment? All right, so we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez? Aye. Director Jones? Aye. Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Richardson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. I'll work with Dr. Bernal and Cindy to get this out there for soliciting applications. Our next item is Resolution 22-23-03. It's a resolution adding appropriations for supplemental budget hearing as presented. So we'll hear from Ms. Flath on this item.
And earlier in your packet, I included what we actually posted in the paper. It is actually a net zero budget request, but because we're adjusting categories more than 10%, you have to go the budget hearing process. So majority of that is related to federal funding, but there's other pieces where we just need to code things differently. So it's just aligning our budget to our expenditures. And some of them are as simple as just a few $1,000s, but nothing was budgeted in that category, which is 100%, beyond that. So just requesting approval of that.
Flath, any questions or comments regarding Resolution 22-23-03? All right, then I'll accept any motion.
I'll move to approve Resolution 22-23-03, resolution adding appropriations supplemental budget hearing.
All right, do I have a second? All right, so I've got a motion by Director Nelson to approve resolution number 22-23-03, resolution adding appropriations for supplemental budget hearing, seconded by Director Jones. Any further questions or comments? No, we'll move to a vote then. Director Lopez? Aye. Director Jones? Aye. Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Richardson? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. All right, our next is resolution 22-23-04. Ms. Flath.
This particular adjustment is fairly minor, but includes our local grant funds. We received some dollars that we needed to add some more budget category items in support services and vocational education. We needed a little bit more in our instruction category because we purchased those those vocational curriculum items that you approved earlier. And again, we sold the property, and the revenue's more than enough in that fund, just needed to make an adjustment so we don't get an audit exception.
All right, any questions or comments regarding Resolution 2223-04? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2223-04, resolution transferring appropriations and redistribution of appropriations as presented.
All right, do I have a second? All right, so we've got a motion by Director Richardson to approve Resolution 2223-04, resolution transferring appropriations, redistribution of appropriations as presented, seconded by Director Jones. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Richardson. Aye. Chair votes aye as well. The next resolution that we have is 2324-01. It's a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing the tax. Ms. Flath.
Of course, this is the first resolution for next school year and fiscal year. Went through the budget committee process, had the 2 hearings that I think most everybody was at, had good conversation, good questions. Then just for the record to note, there's a couple of major changes in this budget if you were to compare things from previous years, and that is fund structure changed. So Fund 251, the student investment account, according to ODE's chart of accounts, I'm going to get really nerdy just for a second. They recommend that the student investment account and high school success are tracked separately from our other state grants. It's just easier for reporting on ODE's end. So we have pulled those out of the 220 fund and separated them into a 251 and 252 fund. The other change we made was previously our nutrition fund was a 250 fund. Now it is a 299 fund, and the goal of that is to, again, align with ODE's fund structure. Everything, they have nutrition in 299, and they actually have, I think it's state programs is 250, so we can't overlap those in the same year. So next year, we'll finish out the last few changes for ODE, and then we're lined up with how they would like to see that budget. This also does include the permanent tax rate of $5.2399 per thousand that we are required by statute to ask the county on our behalf. So requesting approval of $60,679,131 and the permanent tax rate of 5.2399.
Any questions regarding that? This is the budget for next year, starting July 1. If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2324-01, a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing the tax as presented.
All right, do I have a second? All right, so we've got a motion by Director Nelson, seconded by Director Jones, to approve Resolution 2324-01, resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, imposing, categorizing the tax. So the following ad valorem property taxes hereby imposed upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district for tax year 2023-2024 at the rate of $5.2399 per 1,000 of assessed value permanent tax rate. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez. Aye. Director Jones. Aye. Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Richardson. Aye. Chair votes aye as well. All right, thank you, Ms. Flath. All right, next, action items regarding approval of bond measure recommendation as presented. So we'll hear from Dr. Bernal.
So you have been presented the information, and you have before you the options to move forward with placing a bond on the measure for their 120 million, 130 or 140. You've seen the data that Jeremy presented tonight. Based on that information, right now the polling that was done indicates that there's the strongest support for 120 million. That does not mean there's not support for the other. There is. To your point, Chair, it's going to take an immense effort either way, regardless of, I believe, the amount we place on the ballot. So we are putting forth to all of you the recommendation of the 120 million. Based on that, seems to have the most favorable support based on the polling results.
Any thoughts, comments, questions regarding the recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. A question, probably a question and a comment. I think it's rare for us to receive public comment from a fellow elected, especially one with the knowledge and maybe inside knowledge that the mayor has. And I'm curious about his proposition of resurveying if we were able to secure a city or county collaborative or other financing to lower the tax burden among individuals. And I don't want to delay the bond at all, but I am curious if we were able to reduce that per property unit tax burden, would the survey come out the same, or would the community want a larger bond? Have you guys talked about that, and what are your thoughts?
So we have had some initial conversations. It's not in the conversation because there's nothing, solidified, right? So it's tough to put hypotheticals out there that may or may not happen. So we don't want to put that out there with it not being anything that's solidified, right? We don't want to say we're going to get X amount of dollars when it's still up in the air. So I think that's part of the conversation and the narrative as we move forward in the bond campaign, right? As many of you guys know, we've already sold off one parcel of land, right, that went to fund additional CTE programming at the high school. We've got work underway to surplus acreage at the Columbia View Heights property. So we are getting a lot of those things in motion, but again, with them not being finalized, we don't want to put them out there because it wouldn't be quite factual. We've been very cognizant of the fact that the information that we do share and put out there is real and factual, right? So hence kind of why the polling that we did with Jeremy and his group is that, the reality is that this is a very subjective thing, right? It's more art than science. We try and make some objective data and kind of by way of the polling to make something that is very subjective as objective as we can. I think not only in this most recent poll, but the one that we did in October, just further confirmed the price sensitivity in our community. If you go back to 2018, that 234 million package obviously did not resonate with the community. When you look at 120 million, that's roughly almost 50% less. I think we can go and look at community members and be like, hey, we heard you, we understand it's a commitment and investment that we're asking for. We understand that, and we're trying to be as mindful of that to not place an undue burden on community members that may think that is something tough for them for personal. So I would say those conversations can continue, but that's the reason why we haven't kind of published anything like that.
Thank you, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Director Richardson, I also want to just add, as it relates to any of the excise tax Google dollars that come into the district, I think it's also important to remember that all of our facilities have a long list of repairs. And it is we would be remiss if we did not utilize those dollars to also go towards the repairs that our other buildings desperately need.
I watched all those meetings.
Clarify that, I think that's a misunderstanding. It would be a scaled back CTE. CTE will still be integrated into the facility, but it would be scaled back. So, yeah. So we still will have, what is it, 7 CTE programs? 6. Thank you. So those will still obviously have, that's part of the programming and the square footage that was built in to the 120, but the ability to expand like the healthcare, I mean, that would not be on day one.
And my other concerns are, no matter where you put the building over there, we're going to stop it. So if we do nothing at all, and I don't care if we do anything to any other fields, we have one field we need to do something with. We sit and talk about we have money we need to put into other schools and stuff, so if we don't do it now, it's not going to get done. Colonel Wright's 100 years old next year. It's going to need a new replacement. So if we put anything off from the high school, what I'm saying now, it's not going to get done. That's my thought. That's how I feel.
Any other thoughts, comments?
I really have a hard time going for the low ball. I really like to see us go for the high ball, and we have time to work on that. We have time to change people's minds, and I think we should make that attempt. You know, we organized, we gathered 60 people to be part of this process, which is far better than we did last time, so that the community was really involved in this whole discussion. And you know, from what I saw from that, they want what we will get from $140 million. We get we can situate the new high school. We'll have more room to do that because Tonka won't be there. So we'll be able to have fields. All of that stuff will be there for us to work on. And so it's supporting our athletics, it's supporting our career tech. I just think we have some time, and we shouldn't just accept going for the lowest amount of money. We can work on this. We can change people's minds.
All right, any other thoughts or comments? And I will say, so we will still have another approval. I think the timing, when's the filing, Jeremy? That August 18th. So we would need to do one kind of final to solidify the bond measure language that would appear on the ballot. But tonight, I think we're looking to kind of make a decision so that that language can be finalized, and then we can get those SEL filings submitted prior to that August date. But Dr. Richardson, Lopez, any thoughts? 120 versus 130 versus 140?
Yeah, I also agree that having the athletics there is very important for children. And I know the community, a lot of people in the community surround themselves with sports along with their children. It's a very important bonding time I would say, as well as having the CTE there for children that choose that path in life. So I would also agree with going for a higher bond.
All right, any other thoughts? Seems like general consensus is towards the 140 versus the 120. Now, you guys saw, our polling numbers are less favorable. I think it was 3 percentage points, if I remember correctly. So as we've been saying, that lift will still be there. I will say that regardless of amount, I think we've got to put in a lot of work and effort. So any further thoughts or comments, Dr. Lopez?
I also think that having more on the bond, having the athletics and all these other classes like CTE and whatnot, it will show more on the bond. It will show more to the people voting. Something that's bigger than just it's just a school. Yeah.
All right, any other thoughts, comments? Yeah, but I will need a motion just on a selected amount, so 120, 130, or 140.
How do we work this? So I'll make a motion to vote for $240 million for the upcoming school bond.
140.
Or 140 for the upcoming school bond.
Could you repeat that motion? Could you repeat the motion? I didn't
So
hear.
the motion on the table, Director Nelson, is a bond measure with value of 140 million.
Okay.
So the upper end that was presented. Do I have a second for that? All right, so I've got a motion by Director Jones to put forth a bond measure in the value of 140 million, seconded by Director Lopez. Any further thoughts or comments? All right, we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez? Aye. Jones? Aye. Nelson?
Aye.
Dr. Richardson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Let's get to work, everyone. All right, our next item is the acceptance of the election results from the May 2023 special district election. So that includes director position number 1, which with an election result of Director Lopez or Adrian Lopez for Zone 1, for Zone 2, we have Ms. Dana Wynn Elledge, Zone 3, David Jones, and Zone 6, Jose Aparicio, were the candidates that had been elected at the May special election. So we do need a motion to approve the election results as received by our Wasco County Clerk, Ms. Lisa Gamby.
Chair, I move to accept the election results for the May 2023 special district election.
All right, do I have a second? All right, so we've got a motion by Director Richardson to accept the election results as presented, seconded by Director Jones. Any further comments? Seeing none, then we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez? Aye. Jones? Aye. Nelson?
Aye.
Richardson? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. And we'll be welcoming Director Wynn Elledge in our July meeting. All right. This is a double up, right? We don't need another calendar. Oh, duh. My bad. All right. I was confusing calendars again. So this is the school board meeting calendar. So our meeting calendar and the budget committee. So for next year. So any questions or comments? I think we've tried our best to avoid things like the chamber event in winter and other things. So keep kind of our same cadence that we've had traditionally, but just made some minor adjustments to account for events during given months. But any questions or comments regarding just the schedule as laid out? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the school board calendar as presented for 2023-24.
I second it.
All right, got a motion by Director Jones to approve the school board meeting calendar as presented, seconded by Director Nelson. Any further questions or comments? We'll move to a vote. Director Lopez. Jones.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Richardson. Aye. Chair votes aye as well. All right, so now we'll move on to board policies. We have a few for first reading tonight. We have policy BBBA, so board member qualifications is the brand new policy. So this is to better align the criteria that we have stated in statute and in the Oregon Constitution to be an elector for a member of a school board. So this is, again, policy did not exist, but this would create the policy, which is in alignment in terms of the criteria to be a board member for D21 per statute and the Oregon Constitution. So any questions regarding this policy? Again, it's first reading, so if something does pop out of you, let me know so we can have any revisions for this second reading at our next meeting. Next is policy BCE, BCF, board committees. So Senate Bill 732 was passed in the 2021 legislative session, requiring districts to establish an educational equity advisory committee. The bill outlines the responsibilities and makeup of the committee. So for districts with an ADM over 10,000, the committee must convene no later than September 15, 2022. That wasn't applicable to us. For districts with an ADM of 10,000 or less, the committee must convene no later than September 15, 2025. So that's the applicable date for us being based on our ADM. And so at least one of the members of the Educational Equity Advisory Committee needs to be appointed to the Budget Committee. So it'll be something that will work. As you guys recall, we just appointed new membership to the Budget Committee. So that'll be something that we'll kind of wait for the next opportunity to make that. So we should be able to meet the 2025 date with that requirement. So any questions regarding that? Okay. All right. The next first reading that we have is policy CBC. This is regarding superintendent's contract. This is a new policy, so this is a result of Senate Bill 1521. It was passed in 2022. So these new provisions in law are to consider when we issue a superintendent's contract and when district school boards are making decisions related to the operation of the district, and kind of a couple big things. So you see the yellow highlights regarding the bracketed language. What's that? Yeah, related to health benefits. And then the other thing with that Senate bill was the termination for no cause. So there's stipulations that if you do have that, you must have a certain language in there per that Senate bill. But any questions regarding CBC comments? Okay. Next, we have policy GCAA, Standards for Competent and Ethical Performance of Oregon Educators. So the definition of sexual conduct in OAR 584-020-0005 was changed, and so to be consistent with the definition in ORS 339.370, section 11. So a lot of that has to do in reference to TSPC as well in there. Any questions regarding the updates to GCAA? Okay. Lastly, for first reading, we have policy GCQB regarding research. So this is just kind of a recommended update, and it's a revision of policy language, and in addition to updating the legal references, and so it's around any kind of research that is conducted, say, using district data or whatever. So a lot of times what you'll see is if we have staff members pursuing their doctoral degree or whatnot, sometimes as part of their work in that program, they'll have to do research projects. So this would kind of give some guardrails related to that, or even outside entities. So that's kind of the why behind having that research policy.
And the recommendation in terms of the bracketed language is that the proposal would be submitted to the superintendent, not the principal, for the approval process.
All right, any questions regarding GCQB? Okay, that wraps up first readings. So for second readings, we have policy IGBHD, program exemptions. So districts are prohibited from discriminating against students, staff, and community members on the basis of religion and other protected classes. OSBA updated this policy to more closely match legal requirements for requesting exemption from school activities. So there have been no changes from the first reading, so that the language, or excuse me, the blue font language that you see there is what we saw at the first reading. But any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for its adoption.
A motion to adopt policy IGBHD.
Right, do I have a
program
second?
accessions.
All right, so we've got a motion by Director Lopez to approve policy IGBHD, program exemptions as presented, seconded by Director Jones. Any further questions or comment? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez? Aye. Director Jones? Aye. Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Richardson? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. And lastly, for second reading, we have policy EHB, cybersecurity. So we heard a little bit about this from our technology director, Mr. Philman. So cybersecurity, just an increasing issue for schools across the country. So this is helping districts kind of establish the norms and procedures around this. And as Mr. Filderman mentioned, it's also kind of one of the requirements for our insurer PACE, that we have to have things like MFA and other elements integrated within the district. So again, this language is the same that we saw for first reading, so no updates or changes. It's what we saw during first reading. There are no comments or questions, and we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adopt policy EHB, cybersecurity, as presented.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Director Jones, seconded by Director Richardson, to approve policy EHB, cybersecurity, as presented. Any further comments or questions? If not, we'll move to a vote. So Director Lopez? Aye. Director Jones? Aye. Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Richardson? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. All right, that concludes our second readings for tonight, which brings us to our final item, comments from the audience about non-agenda. Do we have any? All right, we did not have any folks submit or sign up for tonight. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I will officially adjourn